Hello fellow conspiracy theorists across time and space, this is Joseph Armstrong. And when I say conspiracy theorist, I mean you. I'll explain what I mean by that toward the end of the video. So stick around. A lot of us have heard that the Bible, craziest statement I've ever heard, the Bible is the mark of the beast. A lot of us have heard that the Bible was edited by Freemasons like Francis Bacon. There is a lot of stuff built up around Francis Bacon. There are a lot of Masonic and Rosicrucian scholars who assert that he wrote more than it seems any man could ever write. But of particular interest to a King James Bible believer is if he had his hands in the translation of the King James Bible. Whether he did or not is the subject of this video and the book that I'm going to show you. So let's get into the video. So back in 2006, Cutting Edge Ministries, which does like documentaries and stuff like this, put out an article called Defending the King James Bible. The article was by David Bay, and it wasn't really defending the King James Bible, it was more kind of defending the King James Bible from being believed, and asserting that Francis Bacon, with all the Masonic and Rosicrucian stuff built up around that name, had bearing on the King James Bible text, and the evidence of this is different symbolisms and illustrations in the woodcuts that were used to create the King James Bible. And not a lot of people are aware of the very well-researched King James Bible-believing response to these claims called Cutting Edge, Lodged in the Groves. It's by Dennis Palmu. You guys can pick this up at avpublications.com if you guys want to read it. It's a very short read. It is only about 105 pages. I'm obviously not getting paid for this recommendation, but I would say that it is a very well-researched book. It gets into a lot of history, a lot of things that you're just like, wow, this stuff exists, and it's like, it's amazing. Being a little more aware of the satanic, devilish way of interpreting symbols and stuff like this, when I read this book, I was like, you mean that that's also a Christian symbol? And I had to remind myself of what I told my wife, I don't know how many times, that when you have, say, a pelican, or a bear, or a wolf, or something like that, half of them are gods, and half of them are the devils. If you see say a red dragon on the front of Gail Riplinger's book, New Age Bible Versions, does that mean that that book is written by a Satanist? No, it doesn't. Because although it is, I believe, literal and not some kind of figurative expression of who Satan is, the dragon is a biblical symbol. It represents the devil, and a Christian who uses the dragon as a Christian symbol for Satan is not a Satanist. They're just using what the Bible already said to describe him. Apparently things like this were a little bit too difficult for Peter J. Peters to figure out when he made the King James only deception. In this book, Cutting Edge, Lodged in the Groves, Dennis Palmu actually gives the names of the different people that actually made the woodcuts. He also explains how they were borrowed and exchanged between different printers in this time frame. I'll be making more videos about this book, but suffice it to say for now that I'm not 100% in agreement with Dennis Palmu on everything that he says in this book. There's a lot of fascinating information. I'll get into the parts where I disagree with him and a lot of the things where I'm just like, wow. David Bay's article was just extremely under-researched, and he didn't really seem to know anything about what he was talking about. If you guys know where the documentary is that actually gives the things that Dennis Palmu was responding to, it's part of, I guess, a 4-part series about the secret mysteries of America's beginnings, and deals with some different things about the New Atlantis. it seems to me, just from reading the book, that David Bay's sources and goals are to take all of his information from those who were descended from the people involved, so like people that follow Francis Bacon and what he said and stuff like this, in an attempt to justify Christians going back to the Geneva Bible instead of the King James Bible. He's trying to make you distrust what the King James Bible has to say, because obviously Francis Bacon had his grubby fingers in it. What's really interesting about that is that this so-called mark of Francis Bacon on the King James Bible and on multitudes of other books is the mere fact that a woodcut called the Hunt of Pan, I believe, was used. And since it was used in all these other books and it was used in the King James Bible too, this shows an obvious Baconian influence, which makes no sense to me. And Dennis Palmu really gives some history of this woodcut. If I remember correctly, it's been a little while since I've read it, this woodcut existed before Francis Bacon even started writing anything. He was very young. And there's a lot of scholarship about these woodcuts and about the history of printing in England that make a lot of the research done by these occultists and Freemasons and Baconian philosophers and stuff like this really seem kind of silly. And that's a real problem that I find with secret societies and cults and stuff like that, is they will give you information that apparently nobody knows. So the cultist thinks that he's getting something from his teacher that nobody else is getting. You kind of see a problem there. This brings me to the question of the day. When was the first time that you heard, if you have ever heard, maybe this is your first time hearing about it, that apparently the Bible, because it has 66 books, is therefore the mark of the beast? When was the first time that you heard about these woodcuts and about Francis Bacon being involved in the translation of the King James Bible? I remember when I first heard about it, I was getting ready for work, and one of my friends shows up at my door. He was hauling an Amish guy around, and he just stopped by, and he was on his phone when I got to the door, and he was exclaiming about how ridiculous it would be that somebody could believe that the Bible is the mark of the beast. We'll get into the guy that talks about that mostly online in another video. To explain what I said about all the people that are watching this being a conspiracy theorist, we all have our own conspiracy theories. A lot of us don't even realize that we have conspiracy theories. Two main conspiracy things is Christians that believe in Satan. To believe in Satan is exactly to believe in a conspiracy with whispers, with spirits, a plan that you can't see that is malevolent. Saying that it's a conspiracy does not make it ridiculous. It does not mean that you're mocking it. So basically, to the believer, Satan is the conspiracy, and to the unbeliever, religion invented hell, and religion invented Satan, and religion has invented all these different things to keep us from the truths of science and ancient paganism and stuff like this. There's lots of other people groups, obviously, and they have all their own conspiracy theories, so I guarantee you that if you're watching this video, you are a conspiracy theorist in some way, shape, or form. We'll save getting into that more for other videos. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you're new here, hit the like button as well. That'll help encourage me as I'm making these videos on a weekly basis. I'm trying to do 2 a week these days. And if you'll share it in your social media outlets, it'll help our ministry grow. I'll put links for the book and anything else that I might forget in the description down below. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to answer the question of the day, I'll be checking out those comments down in the comment area. Have a great day, and we will talk soon.